First off, before I even get into this video, I need to practice good business. As a college graduate who studied business administration, I very much appreciate good business. I reached out to ArenaNet and within 24 hours their team had settled my ticket. I mean, talk about stellar customer service. Honestly, I can't even get my bank on the phone half the time, and here ArenaNet is schooling cats on what to do with customers that have been customers for 20 years. I don't know, I just really appreciated that and figured I would preface this video.
I'm not too sure anyone is going to see this video, nor watch the entire thing. Maybe it will just stay in the gray state of YouTube forever and be a remnant of my past. Either way, I'm going to set the stage. The year is 2005. The world we know it has yet to experience the drastic social and technological advancements we saw in the last decade, and PC gaming as a whole was still in the niche area of life. The consoles dominated at the time, albeit the Xbox 360 and Halo were popular.
I think there was some other stuff.
The PC world and MMOs, Warcraft dominated the scene. But there was a hidden gem, Guild Wars, that was released free to play with no monthly subscription. This at the time was a massive marketing move, unbeknownst to ArenaNet, and paved the way for current MMOs we see today. There were no microtransactions. There was no pay to win. There was no buy a max level character to catch up. Guild Wars was unique in the sense its economy was also player driven. There was no auction house. So the trades forced you to interact with other players. Over time, you would establish a network of relationships.
With different classes to play and many areas to explore, I found myself entrenched in the game as a kid. I loved hanging out in the towns, looking at everyone's cool dyed gear, especially the black and white sets, as I remember those dyes being the most expensive. There's something else to note here too. The music and compositions done in Guild Wars are in my opinion some of the best we have ever seen in gaming, and you can thank the great Jeremy Soule. Believe it or not, this is the same Jeremy Soule that composed the Skyrim soundtrack, amongst many other very popular releases. The guy is an absolute musical genius, and I very much appreciate the meticulous detail and attention to the soundtrack. If anything, I would argue that the soundtrack is what made the game so good. I could go on and on about chord progression and stance building in musical terms, but hey, maybe that's for another video. Guild Wars immediately sets the tone by throwing you into a gorgeous fantasy world. At first, what's known in the game as a pre-searing places you in a beautiful world of Ascalon, where everything seems amazing. There are people dancing in the city, huge walls that are surrounding you, and it really makes you feel play like they're safe. You start the game by doing some basic quests and quickly find the game takes a drastic turn. Long story short here is that you are set at the story and everything else in the world is burning to the ground, and you, the hero, are at the center of the lore, and the game is consistently reminding you that every corner there's another adventure or piece to the puzzle. In retrospect, the quest lines in Guild Wars are extremely extensive and honestly deserve a huge shout out as well. Doing the quests might not be everyone's cup of tea, but Guild Wars did a phenomenal job with being able to world build and integrate quests into their game. There is so much that Guild Wars did that it did good, and I mean really good. Let's take a look at the map. The first thing you notice is how detailed it is. The colors, although they seem muddy for today's standards, really made the game feel like its own actual world. The way you navigated with fast travel has been adopted in almost some fashion in every single MMO today for the most part. The different sections of the map were also added with subsequent expansions, and you were left with a very nice, very big, very good map. It was clear to see what areas were what. It was easy to use and easy to understand. Another interesting mechanic in the game was the idea of henchmen. Basically, these are other hero NPC characters that helped you along your journey. The key part of this mechanic was the game's easing into all the other classes and their abilities, whether you liked it or not. It was rewarding to understand that when you were facing a necro, for instance, that you could assume that you would be debuffed or damaged over time. This evened the playing field in terms of progression because you didn't necessarily need to play with other players to play the game. This is a unique part of Guild Wars that to this day I have not seen be replicated very well in any other RPG. The PvP system was also amazing to say the least. As you progressed in the game and unlocked skills, you could create a PvP only character and use the skills you unlocked. This was also a phenomenal piece to consider because it really detached your main PvE character from the game and it felt good. The game felt great to play, the menus weren't over convoluted, the ability to change your UI around to your liking was also made in a superb fashion. Consider this game was developed in the Stone Age. The game's combat, while not in today's standards, wouldn't be considered efficient, and it might even be considered archaic. It worked, and it worked great. If you never played Guild Wars, think of Warcraft's combat system with old school RuneScape tick damage system. The skills felt powerful and the animations were unique. They were fluid and didn't bug out, and most of the time, it felt immersive enough to where you would feel inclined to learn about the skill. Guild Wars had that pulling effect on players. The game has you take a primary class and a secondary class, giving you the ability to be very creative. This idea has been adopted as well by many current RPG and MMOs, where you really felt this mechanic was in the solo runs, which was my next point. Guild Wars rewarded players not who had money in their wallet to spend, but players who grinded mobs and used the economy, or in layman's terms, people who played the game. In retrospect, the flow of it all felt great. There were so many items, and they all had their uses, which made every player have some sort of sustained income to grow their character with. Items would roll like any modern tier loot system, from gray to white to blue to purple, gold, and green items, and the loot tables were easy to navigate. It made the items stand out, and I still remember how many traders would spam selling max gold weapon in trade chat. As I was making this video, I couldn't help but notice how active the community seems to be. In all honesty, I might consider continuing to log on for a bit at this rate. The closing remarks I have for Guild Wars are hopefully insightful. As this likely will be my only retrospective video I ever make, I wanted to make it good. I hope to make this video to show that somewhere out there, once upon a time, there was a phenomenal MMORPG that did it right, and it deserves some credit. I would hope that in the future, Guild Wars continues to remain active and strong, and other developers consider what this game did right. Also, once again, I wanted to shout out ArenaNet for quickly helping me recover this account. The trip down memory lane has been fleeting, but it was a good one. Thanks for watching the video. Consider hitting the like button. Drop in a comment down below if you ever played Guild Wars. What was your favorite memory about the game? And take care, guys.